So it seems like the last couple of chats have been post con chats. That's like becoming a theme here. But first of all, how are you? How are things in the
I
world
am
of
very
Alyssa?
well. How are you, sir?
I am doing excellent. Now, I guess we'll get into it. But are you is did you turn in your final gaslight map that is behind you? Is that
Nope. I'm going to keep throwing labels on it until they tell me to stop.
all right? So what they tell you? Just keep going, keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I think, basically right now, they're not ready for it. I think if they were moving into layout, they would be wanting this map. I've done the map, it's finished. But I'm preparing a poster version of it, which means labeling every street and every alleyway until I run out of time. So it's kind of like a little quirky side project almost for me. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think they're focusing on a lot of other good, super sexy things. This is definitely going to be a thing. I think just they've got a little bit of time. When they want it, they'll let me know. Otherwise, I keep them appraised of where I'm at.
All right. I mean, that's cool as you're getting more time. It seems like the more stuff you can do with that, just the more tweaking. I mean, it looks better and better every time. Every time I see it.
I kind of want to be done with it in about a month, though. I'm not sure this version. Yeah, the version that's behind me has got a lot more labels on it, but you can see there's entire roads, etc., that don't have labels on them yet. So I kind of want to spend maybe another 20 hours, 40 hours putting labels on it, and then I'll just call it a day. Then we'll be done.
Cool. And then you said you're taking right. You're taking the rest of this year off, right, to work on your own. Or
Kind of sort of no.
oh,
So updates from the Faden household. I am going to be drawing a Greyhawk city map once a
ooh,
quarter. And Luke Gygax had me as a stretch goal in his recent Kickstarter, which funded only a few days ago. And he more than got his stretch goal. So I'm going to be doing some maps for him too. So I'm still doing maps for folks. They just have to be super interesting, not conflict with anything else. And I'm going to insert more of me drawing maps like what's behind me.
nice. Cause yeah, because I know you said you want to look at some other cities and kind of do some other kind of historical maps. But congrats on doing the stuff for Luke. What is the Greyhawk map for him as well, or is that for something else?
No, there's a guy called Christoph, and he's got like a Greyhawk zine, for want of a
Okay.
better thing. And I don't know the name of it. And my apologies, Christoph, for that. But basically, he spoke to me, Gary Khan, was like, would you be willing to draw, a city map once per quarter for me? And I got to be honest with you, Greyhawk's always been very intimidating. It comes with lots of book reading and adhering to canon, and I don't want to deal with that. I just don't. I don't have the time. Um, but he's like reassured me that I'll be doing locations that don't have any lore, or they don't have any previous scenarios, canon information about them. No one that really knows much about what they are, other than a marking on a map. So under that, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So at least one city map every quarter, I suppose, for them.
Wow, that'll be really cool. Yeah, that seems like a neat project. I was wondering. I was just thinking about it. Obviously I'm sure you don't know, but it's like the is Greyhawk like is the name in the public domain or something? I would have thought that people would have been like, hey, Greyhawk, not so fast. But I guess maybe he has permissions or whatever he
No,
has
no,
worked
no,
out.
you're right. And it's a really good question because obviously I do the fantasy mapping show with Anna Maya, right? And Anna Maya does nothing but Greyhawk. It's super high resolution overland maps, and she's an expert. She's a savant on the subject. And I was sitting there thinking, well, how come Watsy just isn't like, stop that, stop that? Well,
Right.
apparently, and they have it on their website that they're actually okay with fans creating content that are like in the world of Greyhawk, or just generically, you just can't sell it. And
Interesting.
so he
But I
doesn't.
guess this zine
You
is going to be kind of a gray area though, right? Because I assume he's going to be selling it. I mean, people put out free zines before, but presumably he's spending money on it, so he's going to be sending it. Well, Well, we'll see what happens. Well, hopefully, folks, you'll get your Greyhawk zines before.
Apparently, I mean, they are aware of this stuff going on. They're aware of Animaya. They don't seem to have a problem with it at all. Yeah, go and create your artwork based upon Greyhawk. You're fine. Don't sweat it. I'm sure if you did a new TSR thing and then claimed that it was your setting, they would have something to say about it.
Yeah. Yes. Any yes. I think we've had a good, very very recent case in point of what not to do when attempting to access, I guess, older, maybe partially forgotten or not IPs. Um, but on to Chaosium Con. So this was their first one, right? Well, how was it? I mean, I guess take us from A to Z on the Chaosium Con experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So Chaosium Con was a 2-day convention, and I think was held on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. 8th and 9th of this month. It was a Friday and Saturday of this month. So it was 2 days, 2.5 days if you attended the dinner that was on the Thursday night before. And a lot of people did. There was 100 sort of seats available to it. And it was good. Let me walk you through it. We arrived on Thursday. The hotel, God, you're going to ask me the name of the hotel, but don't.
As long as it's not the
It-
Overlook Hotel, it's all right.
No, it's in Detroit, and you go, Detroit, what? But there was a really nice area in Detroit, surrounded by a golf course. And when you're surrounded by a golf course, a hotel in the center of it always tends to have something nice going on. And it was a real nice, stylish hotel, kind of wrapping around water features and ponds and stuff. It was kind of high
Wow.
class. They'd clearly been renovating the interior of it, so it had a great ambience. People were beginning to trickle in already. You could see the Call of Cthulhu t-shirts and sweatshirts, and I'm not going to knock the hotel. They struggled because I don't think they realized that 300 people were turning up for the convention, and so their catering side definitely struggled. That's all I'm going to say on that, and I could say a lot. But the convention itself, this was their first one. They've definitely gone through a couple of teething problems, things like badges not being available to pick up, the night before or even the morning of, lanyards not being available until partway through the first day, little sort of organizational things. But otherwise, they had the entire Chaosium crew, and God, there has to be like 20 of those people. They were bringing them in from England. There's a lot of Chaosium folks in England, so it was good to see them kind of really. I mean, they've been around since the 80s, man. I mean, and this is the first time that they've done a convention, and they have adoring fans all over the world. So to see them open up their doors, so to speak, and like. Every single person on the KSM crew is very approachable, very like loving and great with their fans. So it was good. It was a good experience.
Did they? I imagine because you think, well, 300 people's not a ton compared to some of the other mega sort of cons that are around. But I imagine if you were a super Chaosium fan, this would have been great because it's small enough at this kind of beginning where you can kind of find yourself talking to folks from Chaosium and really kind of talk to them, as opposed to when you get to a bigger, hopefully they'll keep doing this year after year, and at some point it just gets too big where even if you want to find them, like it's just hard. It's hard to find them in the people. It's hard to find them because they've already been going off and doing all kinds of stuff. But here it's kind of still at that kind of small stage where you can really sort of find people and run into them, on a personal level and chat.
I'm sure in 5 years' time, people will be complaining that it's got too big, and they can't talk to the Mike Masons and the Lynn Hardys of this world. But yeah, it made everyone very accessible. The bar area, which I think is important for in between games and in the evening, being able to chill out somewhere that's got a great ambience, was nice. And being able to sort of chat with Lynn Hardy and Mike Mason and Rick, their sort of president, was kind of really cool. You're 100% right.
Did they? Was there any thought, or did you hear any kind of why they chose now to launch it as opposed to a year from now, or why they didn't do it pre? Just
I honestly don't know. That I think is a great subject and a great question, but I don't know why it took them, shall we say, so long to do a convention. But now they have. I'm sure we're going to see them every year.
Oh, I hope so, because I would love to go to one down the line. I guess I'll be curious if they keep it in Detroit. Are they from Detroit? Is there some connection between the company and Detroit? Do you know? Are they from
I believe
Michigan?
there is. I thought that like their hometown is from there. But let me just do a quick. Like I want to say it was Ann Arbor. Yeah, Ann
Okay.
Arbor,
Yeah.
Michigan.
All right. So there's like a Michigan connection. That's cool. It's always cool for
Yeah,
things
and
to be
it
in
was
different
like the
places.
Eagle Crest Golf Resort and Convention Center, which was really, really nice. About 20 minutes away from the Detroit airport,
And
but a
and
really
and,
nice
and
area
there's
of
a
the
lot. At
world.
least you can get there, everybody, because I want to go to Gary Con and some of those, but man, getting to Lake Geneva is not easy from the East Coast, where it's very easy to get to Detroit. Was there a keynote or somebody giving like an opening ceremony speech combo? Anything like that?
I thought there was going to be a little bit more of a keynote. I mean, there was a short address by Rick um, on that. I'm going to call it the VIP dinner, but it wasn't a VIP dinner really. You know, you pay your $100, you get to attend if you're one of the 100. And so yeah, he did a sort of speech for everyone at the beginning of it, which was set a nice tone for the weekend.
Anything interesting in the speech? Anything
Well,
that he?
it was more what they then started to talk about at the convention itself, because they started to talk about their next projects coming up. They did a lot of seminars and that type of thing, and so it was less of talking about the projects coming up at the dinner, where let's say you've only got 100 people attending, and talking about the projects coming up at seminars and things. So that's kind of the way they structured it, and there was actually a big one called
Oh,
Rivers of London, and Rivers of London is an extremely popular book series,
I've
and
never heard of it. Is it
that's the
English?
secret map that I've been working on for them.
Ah, ha. So, well, tell me about Rivers of London. Well, I've never heard. Is this something that's like it's a British or English series, or what's the skinny on that?
I think I believe it is a British series. It's very very popular by all accounts. Um, I think he's up to like 5 or 6 books now or something like that. I could be mistaken. They're gobbled up every single time he releases one. And Chaosium have made an arrangement to release
Wow.
a Rivers of London source book and adventures.
So, just for the folks in the U.S., though, it has a different name apparently, according to. So, I've got Rivers of London, the novel on Wikipedia, and according to Wikipedia, the name of the novel in the U.S. is Midnight Riot for whatever
Why?
reason. And he is an English author, Ben Aronovich. I have no idea. I guess the first one was released in 2011. Sometimes it's always weird when they change the names of things. Yeah, and you wonder why are you changing it? But I don't know. I'm sure they had their reasons. But yeah, so the first book and maybe the series they kept this because I guess it's both because the Rivers of London apparently was the first book in a series that's also called Rivers of London. I don't know if it's maybe they kept the name of the series and for the U.S. but changed the first book to Midnight. I don't know. It's Midnight Riot here. If anyone goes looking it up and wants to check it out, and they can't find Rivers of London, whatever, it could be called Midnight Riot. No reason on Wikipedia is given
Yeah, and I
for.
just did a quick search on Reddit and they don't know either. Apparently, even the author doesn't know why it was changed. That's an Americanism right there.
That's an Americanism. This is so goofy. I remember famously the translation of Tintin in English. They took the dog. Have you ever read Tintin? The comic Tintin, or you saw the
Yes.
movie? Whatever. He has a dog. The dog in French, her name is Milou, which was like his old love who we lost, but then he named the dog after. Like there's like a really nice backstory. In the English, it just becomes Snowy because it's white, color. It's like why? Like you had this great backstory with his lost love and the dog, and it says something about its connection, and all that. Now we're just gonna call her Snowy. Okay, I guess.
I don't know why they do that. They did that with the film The Professional or Leon. Have you ever heard of that?
Of course, I know that very well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they changed the name in England.
what is it in? Is it in England something different than? Is it not The Professional, nor is it
It's
Leon?
called Leon.
Oh, it's called Leon. I think because I don't. You see, I'm trying to because I remember it ended up getting like two names because I remember originally going way back when you were starting to buy movies on DVD because they had like The Professional but then you could get the director's cut, which was Leon the Professional. I don't know. I don't even know what the French version is called, but it's just yeah, it's just when they change the name stuff, it's really weird. What kind of I haven't read here on is this so I assume should I assume that Rivers of London is some kind of horror eldritch some kind of
Well, and that's a really good question because I've not read the books. I honestly don't know from first-hand experience, but I believe it is a very good
oh, here we go. I got it.
setting.
I got us. It seems like I don't want to get out of turn here, but I feel like I'm getting kind of I don't want to say Hellboy vibes, but kind of one of these things. So here again, this is Wikipedia, so who knows
Okay.
how correct it is, but it says that speaking of this is the first novel, Rivers of London, aka Midnight Riot. The novel centers on the adventures of Peter Grant, a young officer in the Metropolitan Police, who, following an unexpected encounter with a ghost, is recruited into the small branch of the Met that deals with magic and the supernatural. Peter Grant, having become the first English apprentice wizard in over 70 years, must immediately deal with two different but ultimately interrelated cases. In one, he must find what is possessing ordinary people and turning them into vicious killers, and in the second, he must broker a peace between the two warring gods of the River Thames and their respective families.
That doesn't
So
that sound Cthulhu-esque?
it does kind of John Constantine,
You could drop that into Cthulhu in a heartbeat. No wonder Chaosium
absolutely.
reached out.
And yeah, so this potion is 2011. I don't know if he's still making books, but it's almost like
No,
boy,
he
this would
is.
have fit.
No, he is
Okay,
still making books. Yeah.
very cool.
So
So
that one caused a little bit of a stir when they announced that one. Now they actually can't show any content, so they can't show my map. There's something as part of the agreement. They can
okay,
say they're doing it, and they announced it at Chaosium, but they can't actually reveal anything inside the book.
interesting. And so when is that? When does that NDA or whatever it is would be lifted?
I don't know. I don't know. Chaosium has been talking openly about it. They've actually posted the cover of the book recently on their own channels ever since the convention. I don't know when they're going to be allowed to talk about the interior. I have no idea.
Interesting. Well, we got stuff to look forward to. So that was their big. Now, did they put that out up front, or did they save that for the end as kind of the grand
No,
second
that
day?
was mentioned pretty early on. One of the other things that they mentioned actually was by Mike Mason. I was on a panel Saturday morning
Oh yeah,
with
and I
Mike
definitely want you to
Mason.
go into detail about that as well. If you
Well,
want to go
it
into
was
that
with
right now,
Mike
go for it.
Mason. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say if you want to get into your panel and just in depth,
Well,
go for it.
I'm not going to recreate the panel here, but it was Mike Mason and Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan is their cartographer. He
Okay.
does like 90% of their maps. Very nice guy. So we did a panel. We did a mapping panel, and Mike Mason was on it from the point of view of as an author, as a writer, and as a creative lead. What are his considerations in as he's working with cartographers? So it was kind of interesting from that perspective. There was a nice crowd that attended, and Mike actually said partway through, because we were talking about my gaslight map, that they're going to, for the first time ever, do a gaslight like campaign, which they've not done before. And apparently, I'm going to do the maps for that too. So that was, and I found that out during the actual the seminar.
Nice. So did they have you guys get in a ring and duke it out? Two mappers enter, one mapper will leave. Cartographer's
No,
challenge.
like Matt is their guy. He's their guy, and he does great maps too. And I'm talking about kick-ass maps. Like it's moving Chaosium onto a whole new level. Um, And the types of thing he does, I don't do. The overland maps, even I'm going to say the city maps, which is going to make you go, or the town maps, like that. But like he does, like or the building plans, he does that, and they look super polished. But then when it comes to stupid, like is she insane details like this is kind of like my forte. So I can imagine I'll be doing towns and cities for them. Matt will do all of the others, which is a fine arrangement to me.
And yeah, and it seems like you guys complement, like you're saying, kind of skills, strengths, and
Because I
weaknesses.
don't want to draw buildings. I got no interest in drawing buildings, And Matt can do the outside, like you're looking at it,
Mm,
and then he can break down into an architectural plan. And honestly, that's not the thing I do.
very nice. So, what were the main points of discussion? What was the? Was there anything interesting takeaways from this kind of creator and cartographer relationship?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones was, what cartographers look for in starting a project, the information that we're trying to get out of the beginning of a project, and that whole sort of, I'm going to call it requirements gathering. And Mike sort of then talking about from his perspective, like when he's asking, let's say, Matt or myself to draw a map, what type of information he looks to provide. And that was kind of an interesting discussion because a lot of people don't know what an artist or a cartographer needs. And so, they tend to, some people approach it more from the point of view of, hey, I've got a map that I need to have done. How much will it cost? And that tells us nothing, right? I can't draw it, I can't even visualize it. So that was a great discussion. I saw a lot of people sort of taking notes on that because I think there were people there that would want to like approach artists or for their own stuff that they're doing from an indie perspective, or maybe they are artists in their own right, and so they were kind of taking notes about the type of things that Matt and I look for, but how we extract from the clients if we don't get it.
Yeah. So what would you say you feel like you need if someone were to come up to you and let's say you had a space in your schedule for commissions? What are the top few things that you would say as someone coming to you that you would ask them to have kind of on hand?
Well, you always start with the what am I drawing? That sounds like an obvious thing, but so many people don't give you that basic information. They'll start with, hey, are you open for commissions? I need something, or I need a map. How much is it going to cost? And that's fine. That's like saying I need a house. How much is it going to cost?
Right.
But you've got to layer in some details, right? And if you think of it in terms of houses, like how big, what is the basic floor plan, or what is the basic floor sort of space that we're looking at here? How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, how many garages do you need? And maps are the same way. Let's start at the beginning. Am I drawing a world map? Am I doing a country? Am I doing an overland map? Am I doing a building? Am I doing a city? There's a big difference between drawing London and drawing, let's say, even Chester, where I come from. Chester's a lot smaller than London. So give me the basics about what I'm going to be drawing. And if you don't know, because it's more like, well, it's a fantasy town, okay, give me a little bit about the population, the general sort of size. Is it black and white? Is it color? What's the print size that we're looking at here? That then allows me to start to focus on what I would be drawing, gives me a sense of the size and the detail that I'm going to be drawing. At that point, I can start to formulate an idea of how long it's going to take me and ergo what the cost is going to be. And then there's always going to start the next layer, peel back the layer of that onion is going to be, okay, so now I'm going to actually pencil sketch this thing out, but I need to know, do you have a shape of the town or city in mind? Is it on the coastline of a lake or the sea? Was it in the middle of nowhere? Does it have any hills or mountains or cliffs around it? What are the main geographic features that create the shape, the canvas, so to speak, that this goes on? And it's 50-50 actually, whether an author knows or not. Some authors are very particular, and I want to talk about that in a moment. And some authors actually don't know. You might get something like, and I've had this, well, it's on a river estuary and it's run by a council of 3 people who have been in charge for the last 50 years. Well, and now we're going into a realm where it tells me nothing, right? It's like, yeah, but is it on a hill? Are there any islands, in the river estuary? So I start to look for shapes that need to be on the map. Let's call them big POIs. And there's a flip side, which will literally give you a book and say, this will tell you everything you need to know. And it's like, I'm not going to read a book for the shape of this city and the main geographic features around it. I'm just not going to do it unless you're going to pay me for it. And that comes up
How about
a lot.
You wrote the book. How about you just bottom line
distill it, right? I mean, you can tell me, like, because the next tier down will be, is there a particular culture we're trying to evoke here that we're trying to capture? That's relevant. If you want to say, well, this is a place that's kind of Mediterranean, cool. I kind of know what the coloring and the building style it's going to look like. I get that. It's fine. But if you then go off into, and their main trade is salt and myrrh, and they earn great income from steel, which they you know, I don't care. I don't care. I mean, like, give me shapes. So that's a big one. And then, you know, even then, a lot of people will not. I'll get some that will actually be able to sketch out the shape and mark temple district here, garden district here. That's great. I've had that several times. And then I'll get others that say, oh, I don't know. And with those, I'll sketch it. And typically, I'll sketch several different shapes and like almost swatches and say, pick the coastline you want from the 6 different sketches. Pick the river shape you want from the different sketches. Pick the shape of the city and the shape of the walls from the different sketches. So they can mix and match. And then I just start easing it forward, you know, basically taking the details from them as I can extract it.
Yeah, I imagine there's a real. It's probably one of those underlooked kind of creator skills is folks who can really kind of distill their stuff down to what they need when they're working with other people, if it's cartographers or whether it's kind of publishers or printers or whatever, being able to really kind of get that stuff as opposed to having a lot of kind of dithering or just unknowns or just kind of being disorganized with your own, I guess, IP or content or whatever you want to call it. So how did you enjoy? Was that the first kind of panel that you'd been on as a presenter? Have you done panels before?
No, I've done panels
Okay.
a lot. I like being on panels. So panels are fun. This was obviously the first one for Chaosium Con, but no, I've been on panels. I want to say in every convention I've been to.
Nice. Was it well attended? A lot of people show up for yours?
Yes. No, I was quite happy with it because sometimes you can be on a panel and you'll have a few people turn up. I've had those. Other times you can be on in a panel or something and have a room full, and I've had those too. Obviously, the more people that are in a room, the better, because you get not only better energy but lots of questions and things, so it becomes easy then to have the conversation.
It's disheartening if you're there for the panel and there are only 3 people in the in the room. You know, there are more panelists than people. It's kind of like, oh, okay. You know, not that I know from experience, but you know that would be my sense of it. Did they do a good job spacing out these different seminars so that you know they could? Because sometimes it's difficult, right? The timing of things can be that you want to go to this thing, but then this other event's happening at the same time, and so you have to make those kind of choices. But maybe with a smaller con, they were able to kind of spread things out too.
No, I think so. My observation from the con, from that perspective, is they had a good selection of panels going on. You know, if you've got someone like Peterson talking about writing, you know, techniques, or horror writing techniques, then that's a great panel to go to. And they had a lot like that happening. I don't look. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think it's so much about the spacing of them. They didn't struggle from that. They had stuff going on all of the time, but they had a lot of games going on too. So it was just a constant choice of like, you know, am I playing games? Am I going to a panel? If anything, I would like to have seen them have more games going on. You know, one of the things when you're running a convention is you obviously need GMs to run games for you, and you sometimes have to drum that up. Like, you know, you'll see the likes of Game Hole or Gary Con like months ahead of time saying, we need games, guys. GMs, get your games in. And they offer incentives too, you know, like extra swag or whatever it's going to be for the GMs to do it. But there's a constant GMs, we need your games. Chaosium had more room than they did games. And their pacing of releasing those games was basically a free-for-all. It's like game registration open, and they wiped out very quickly. The games filled. They filled instantly. So if you came in a day or two later, like me and my husband, they were gone. You had slim pick. I'm talking gone. You know, we managed to get one game, and then another one was added a little bit later on, like 2 weeks after the fact. And we just happened to be looking at the screen at the time and managed to get a position on that too. We had 2 games for 6 sessions, and That's the worst I've had in any convention from a ratio perspective. Because most conventions, even if you don't want to, if you don't get the game that you hope to get into, because it's a bum rush, man. Every single time it's like event registration open, everyone's fighting for the big, huge games. And I get it because I'm a GM on the other side and my games fill up quickly. And there's always a lot of people that don't get in and they wish they had. So I understand it. But there are ways to kind of open the gates slowly. Like I think Gary Con, for example, allows their diamond members to go first. Then the following week, they allow their platinum and then their gold and then their silver. North Texas, that's a smaller convention. North Texas only has about 500 people or so there. North Texas, opened the gates a little bit early, but only had, let's say, 2 positions open at each game. So all of the games could not sell out. Then they open up a couple more positions and a couple more positions. So that, I think, is a better way of going about it. But that's one of the teething problems that I think hopefully Chaosium will get down, where they get more games, they hustle GMs more, maybe offer more incentives for people to GM, and don't do the bum rush, gates open, horde. Because if you're not there when those gates open, you're out of luck.
You're out of luck, yeah. Do you feel like that they didn't have enough GMs and that's what caused? Because I mean, sometimes you feel like you can have a ton of GMs, but still they just fill up.
They didn't have enough.
Okay.
They didn't have enough. And I've run conventions, okay? I have run for about 3 years. It was a wargaming convention, but it was a similar principle. We knew our slots, we knew our tables, and we knew down to each time zone, district, slot, segment, thank you, where there were spare tables. And what we did is, anytime, let's say Friday afternoon is still quiet, we would say Friday afternoon, GMs, we have Friday afternoon slots, come on, put your games in. Saturday afternoon, come on, we have 7 tables still open. So we had our finger on the pulse to a high degree. Now I'm going to guess that Chaosium did too. How could you not? You know your rooms, you know your tables, and I don't believe this, but I'll say it. Either the person that was taking in the events was not paying attention to that, which is possible, or he just wasn't looking for it. Or honestly, maybe there was a breakdown, because that same guy isn't going to be a person doing your social media. And I think there was a breakdown there. I mean, honestly, I think there was a potential breakdown from that point of view. I don't want to talk for Chaosium at all, but their main website never updated during this whole countdown to the convention itself.
Really?
No, it mentioned the convention. It said, and we're hoping to have vendors be there. And it was that was their first post. And that initial post never got updated again.
Oh my gosh.
So I feel like, there was a disconnect with then the outreach in the media, so to speak, the social media, to keep the news out there, keep the conversation going, and keep pulling those GMs in.
Maybe there was somebody wearing too many hats, and because especially with your first one going, it's probably people who were just so much going on that maybe that particular element just kind of slid off their plate, and they weren't able to pick it up again.
I spoke to the event coordinator at the beginning of the convention, during the convention, at the end of the convention, funny enough, and he was on his own. And at the end, a very nice guy, by the way, well, really sweet guy. But at the end of the convention, he was like, I thought I would actually be able to stand around a little bit, answer some questions, and maybe play some games. He was like, I needed help. So I've got to be honest with you, at Enfilade, the wargaming convention, which I helped out with for a few years, there was, I want to say there was something like 6 of us, with hands on deck, and we had volunteers. Now, of course, Chaosium had a lot of volunteers. They had the people manning like the tables and the booths and things like that. Of course they did. But event coordination never just fell down to just me. There was always a few of us keeping the wheels moving, and maybe they just needed a couple more hands on deck.
Yeah, they might have just underestimated what it was. They thought like, oh, I can handle it by myself and have time to spare. And at the end of it, you're like, nope, not only could I didn't have any time to spare, but I need more people.
Well, and I think, if this is your first, right, you find out almost the hard way, like suddenly you're buried under it. You go, oh my god, I'll learn from this next
That's
year.
it. What is it like? What are all the plans until first contact with the enemy? Well, like I'm sure all their great
Right?
ideas
Yeah,
for how it was going to work went out the window
exactly.
as soon as that Saturday hit. Were there any particular themes about the seminars and things other than? I mean, was it just kind of products? Was it? I mean, I guess there were elements of stuff about kind of content creation, or was it more about just like talking about stuff that they're doing, kind of Q&A type stuff, or
Oh, it was all over. It covered the whole gamut. And I should emphasize, it was probably 70% games, 30% seminars and panels, but the panels ran the range of like, horror story writing and design to, maybe Lynn Hardy talking about writing in general to talking about projects coming up. They were all over. And you have to remember too, Chaosium are well known for Call of Cthulhu, but they also do RuneQuest and so on and so forth as well. They have several settings out there that they were running games and doing panels for all of them.
were they trying to keep it kind of evenly split, or was there a focus on more on Cthulhu, or more, or were they trying to kind of keep sort of equal representation?
I want to say it was fairly evenly split. My focus was on Call of Cthulhu, and I'm going to guess that it is the bigger product. But RuneQuest was well represented there from a game perspective and a panel perspective. So and they had new books there at the vendor hall too for RuneQuest, and lots of them. So apparently it's a popular product
I mean,
still.
it's been around for a long time. I mean,
Yeah,
at
it
least
has.
since the '80s, also maybe even earlier. Did you, other than the panel that you were on, did you attend other panels?
I didn't. Um, there was one panel I was going to go to, which was I think Peterson's writing, horror writing, and I thought, oh, this could be useful from a point of view of a GM, like writing my own content and everything. But I had someone sit with me and want to talk, and so I spoke to him.
That's what happens too. So you guys got into two games. So how were your two games? What were they? How were they?
Okay, so at every convention you go to, there is a risk, unless you know the GM, which is why certain GMs are highly sought after. There is a risk that the game is going to be good or not. I mean, that's just a reality of conventions. Not every single keeper GM is a great one. They're just not. I mean, this goes true for any convention, any game system. And going back to Game Hole or Total Con or Gary Con, it's 50-50 whether you're going to get a good game or not. Hopefully you have an entertaining game. And some of that is down to your fellow players. It's a crapshoot. I mean,
Very
it
much so.
is. And I say that as a preface to our first game could have been better. And GM, if you watch this video after the fact, my apologies, but it's true. It was a RuneQuest game. It actually brought back a lot of memories for me because I played it in the 80s and 90s. I haven't played it since. It was Jack's first experience of RuneQuest. It was second edition, I think. So it was like old character sheets and stuff. But this was a guy that clearly knew the lore and the setting to the point where it became a distraction and it was instead of the adventure, if that makes sense.
It does. It
Um,
does
it,
absolutely.
it, it was like, yeah, you can name drop the location we're in and the season and the holiday and the name of the town we're in. And you could do all of that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this. Oh, I remember that. But it had nothing to do with the adventure. It clearly was a brain flex. He knew what he was doing. But like the actual game itself, it didn't have a hook. It was like your soldiers, you're taking some leave and you've decided that you're going to go to a nearby swamp for your leave. And so already you're going,
Therapeutic
okay.
purposes, is the mud good for your skin?
And there was none of that. There was none of that. And there could have been so many reasons to actually go to the swamp, right? So many reasons for the. You could have been sent there on
Yeah,
orders
I don't
to
even know
go to the
why are
swamp.
you on leave? Just have your commanding officer just says this guy got lost in the swamp, go get him or something.
Right, and then it was basically so you arrive at town, and so we're like, okay, so we're on leave, we're just chilling. So we're shopping for souvenirs, we're buying food, we're not doing anything, And so it was like, so is there anything to do?
And did
And
he
it was
seem kind
like,
of overly content just to use all these things just to talk more about the town and the lore and
it
all the
was a little
while?
bit like that, right? And then so it was like, one of the NPCs says, well, you could do a swamp tour, and it's like, okay, so there's the little bouncing exclamation over the NPC's head.
Yes.
It's the guy
Yes.
waiting at the boat. And then once we got into the swamp, it was fine, but it was just fine. But it was like there could have been so many reasons to have a group of soldiers go to the swamp, commandeer a boat, commandeer a navigator, get to the central island because you're looking for X, Y, or
I
Z.
do feel like that there's a skill of running one shots, and I think something that a lot of folks don't get is with a one shot you kind of have to, because the whole thing of like I don't want to be a railroading GM. I don't want to force you. When you're in a one shot in a con setting, you have 3 or 4 hours to play the game. You kind of have to
You gotta.
because no one's there to really shop in town. But if you're left with nothing else to do, you're gonna end up wasting time. Like, oh, I guess I'll walk around, and then hopefully the one NPC I talk to will be the one that will point me over. Just put you in the swamp. Like, if my game would have been like you're in the swamp, like you've already pushed off from town, you do whatever and go right. Like that's what you want. You just want to be like in
You
it.
got
But
4 hours, right? You
you
got
got
4 hours for
4 hours.
this thing.
So dithering in the town in the kind of pre-quest area is not helpful. But it's hard because I think a lot of times GMs they want to be good. They want to be like I don't want to force them to go. But you're here to take the swamp tour. Put everybody put everybody on the swamp tour. Don't worry
100%,
about it.
100%. The other thing was the second game, though. The second game was a success. And so, GM, if you're out there and you watch this later on, thank you. It was an awesome game. And out of everyone at the table, I probably knew about 5 of the other players. It was just a lot of my friends that sat down at the table.
Okay, that always makes it fun.
So that obviously helps. It did mean that we were a little boisterous, but the GM took it in his stride, and it was a great idea. It's like it's 1920s. It's the almost golden era of movies. It's the birth of movies in many ways, but we're not into the talkies yet. And we were all different types of characters that had a tie-in with this particular movie studio. That were doing a big gala night for a talkie. But we had been tipped off that something was amiss with this. We had to do a little bit of investigation. And one of our crew, he had actually invented the talkie sort of technology and had it stolen from him by the studio. So he's there to try and actually get his stuff back and figure out what's going on. We all had a beef with the studio. That was the thing. And it was great. So it was a great setting. We were in Hollywood. We're investigators. We're an inventor. We all had great, compelling characters, and we had a blast with it. It was a lot of fun and a very plausible, well crafted adventure that fit within the 4 hours nicely.
This somebody's homebrew. This was just their own.
Someone's homebrew.
Nice. So what eldritch horror was behind it all? The nefarious.
Well, there was no big god, but it was the studio was having people sign contracts with them, and not just us, but it could be actors and everything, but the pen and the paper and the contract they were signing was basically signing their soul away. And they would actually go into almost the dreamlands. They would disappear. That's or like end up like sort of being discarded on the side of the road, which is what happened to our inventor. But he signed away his invention. He was kind of cast under a spell. But the actual studio was then tapping into all of these souls that they'd taken into the dreamlands, and they had a special camera that they were using to create the talkies, but all of the
Oh,
actors, none of it was real. They're all from the Dreamlands, you know.
oh, that's very cool.
So
Shades
it
of
was kind of
Phantom of the
cool.
Paradise in there, and that Archive 81 a little bit had
Yeah,
something kind of
totally.
interesting. Really cool stuff. Who did you play? What was your character?
No, let me think about it for a moment. I was like a private investigator, and I decided I was going to model him on. I think the guy's name is Hank from Breaking Bad. So a little overweight, a little balding. Um, he's got his little revolver, but he's there to sort of figure out what's going on with this studio. So that was my character.
And
And
your
we had the
husband?
actress in the group too,
Oh,
who
yeah.
had been promised, a role in the studio, didn't get it, so she's looking for dirt. It was kind of cool.
What did your husband play?
Oh God, what did he play? Um, I don't remember. I don't remember. No, apologies. I don't remember what he played. But I did say it was a loud, boisterous group, and we were drinking at the time.
Did everybody survive?
Yes, actually, we did. We did. We managed to figure out what they would. Now, there was a good chance that one of us wasn't going to because he got sucked into the Dreamlands before the by the camera. But we managed to figure out how to get him out, destroy the camera, and then we all booked it. And as we're booking it out of there, in a truck, um, there was a chase, but it was a chase from these larger than life Hollywood set pieces. So we had pirates in a galleon shooting at us, broadsides at us. And that was like, obviously from the Dreamland, we had gangsters shooting fake guns, but they're shooting actual bullets at us, So it was this real larger than life sort of thing.
That
It was
seems
kind of a
really
cool
cool.
experience.
That definitely seems like a really cool setup, and like 20s Hollywood just seems like a great backdrop for all kinds of nefarious stuff. It's a shame that you only got those two games in. What did were you just socializing, talking to folks you hadn't seen in a while?
Yeah, so we always like to have a little bit of time to walk the vendor hall, but the vendor hall was quite small, so that didn't take long. Socializing with friends is always a big one. Honestly, we'd never been to the area, so we also went out to restaurants. It's always nice to be able to sort of see the area
Did you
and
get some
eat good
Detroit
food.
style pizza?
No, we actually went to a sandwich bar, but they served these incredible sandwiches. So that was kind of really cool. Oh, and went to a burger joint one time too. So that was I ate so much food. It was good. Um, and then on the last night, so Saturday night, one of our friends ran a Mork Borg.
Ah, how did you like that?
That was my first time playing it, and it was fun. It was fun. I mean, it's almost tongue in cheek. I think you're rolling just d6s. Your character sheet is very, very simple. But it was fun just hanging with friends, having a drink, rolling dice as we're doing this Mork Walk thing. So that was
Did you like the setting?
from what I could tell of it. But I mean, have you ever played Mork Borg?
I have not. I've read Morborg, and I actually interviewed the two guys behind Morborg at the end of last month, or was it the beginning of this month, somewhere fairly recently.
Okay.
Really nice guys. They're really sweet because they with the time difference and everything. I had a late stream, or earlier than this, but later for me. So I think it was like at 3:30 my time, and it was like 9:30 their time, and one guy was having awful difficulties connecting, but they were troopers, and they were really cool. The setting is it just seems amazing. It's kind of dark. It's got this kind of they're from they're Swedish, so they has a big kind of Scandinavian sort of vibe to it. But of course, that's where they're from, so it makes total sense. But yeah, it seems like a really um, fun system. I think especially for playing like a one shot like that, where you just kind of come in and just kind of rock and roll and just really embrace all the kind of loony stuff that's going on.
Loony is a good word for it, but in a good way. Loony and one shots. Yes, it's incredibly accessible. And you just look at your character sheet, it's got ridiculous things in there, like, your weapon is a femur bone, you know, your class is some kind of biter and you've filed your teeth into biting, and suddenly you're like, all right, I can get into this character, and it's just like, go. And so it's like Mad Max meets fantasy.
Oh, it is, and there's some, like, I don't know if you saw the tables where basically you can kind of, there's some sort of like a countdown basically to the end of the world or theoretical end of the world, right? You can either be like 2 days away or a week away, and just like all kinds of horrible things are happening in the interim. Like it's great. It was a lot of fun. Did you what did you think of like the D6 kind of mechanics? Do you
I
like
was
it?
okay with it in the interest of a fast, accessible, easy game where it's just sit down and play as a one shot. Worked beautifully.
Any other? Oh, I was gonna ask and I almost forgot. Any swag? Did you buy anything in the vendor area? Were you gifted anything?
Yeah, they had Cults of Cthulhu, um, which I bought. That's not even on their store yet, but they had it at the convention, so I bought that. I bought Time to Harvest, I think, as well.
What is that?
It's like it's an adventure,
Okay.
a fairly involved adventure. I mean, it's a book like so thick, so there's got quite a bit going on in it. I didn't own those, so I bought them. Oh, highlight their auction. We should talk about their auction.
Yeah, I
But
didn't even
that's
know they
one
had them.
thing I did. So I have started going to the auctions at conventions, even if I don't bid, because it's always fun to watch the people with money bidding on stuff. Some auctions don't really have a lot to give away, or it's more tongue in cheek, but they're still hugely fun to be part of. Well, these guys, Chaosium, raided their vault. Apparently, they have like a big vault somewhere, like I can imagine it being a storage room somewhere, and they were pulling out good stuff. I'm talking about first edition boxed, still in shrink
Wow.
stuff. And and it was across their entire line that they've ever had since the 80s. There were some incredible items. This thing lasted for about 2 hours. They had Rick and Mike basically pulling an item out. They would talk about it. The bidding would happen. Done. Next one would stand in, bidding on the next item. Boom, 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 boom. Everyone that wanted to bid had a number card. You just hold it up. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, you've got it. Take down a number onto the next item. They ran it like a machine. I don't know if they've ever done it before, but they did it really, really well. And oh my God, some money was getting thrown at them in that one,
I
let me
believe it.
tell you. And I was one of them because I have a spreadsheet of all of the items I own. I collect just Call of Cthulhu stuff. And I had my sheet out in front of me. And my friends, they had their respective sheets out in front of them. And we were talking, are you bidding on this? No, I'm not going to bid on this. I already have it. Okay, well, I'm going to bid on this. And we probably between us cornered 80% of what went that day to the tune of
Wow.
about $12,000 worth
Holy
between
cow.
us. Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Wow. But you got some good stuff. So what were your
I
top
spent
kind of picks?
$2,000 on it personally myself. I'm just saying. It was a lot of freaking money I
Over how
spent.
many books? How many things is that?
Well, actually, quite a bit. I'm going to do an unboxing video over the
Oh, okay.
weekend. Because I actually had it just shipped to me and it all arrived today.
Oh,
Funny enough,
nice.
but I actually, they had things like the original artwork from a book, or like back in the 80s and 90s before computers, they would have to cut pieces out and arrange them,
Mm.
So and that is what would then go off and go into prints and things. So they had things like that, and they had something like that. It was for Call of Cthulhu. I forget specifically. Again, I'm going to have to sort of do my unboxing. But I bid on that. So it was like a once in a lifetime. This is like the pre-cut version of like an ad that they ran back in the 80s. So I was like, I'll get that. I did get Horror on the Orient Express boxed in shrink. I already have one, but I thought I could get another one because then I could actually use it. But I paid so much for it, I don't want to break it open. So now I still need one. So that's ridiculous.
So why
I
don't
did
wait a
get.
minute? But if you have the one in, so you have one already that's
I
not in
have two
shrink.
in shrink now.
Oh, you have two in shrink. You don't want to. You
No,
don't want to tear either
no,
of
I
them
don't want to
open.
break either of them open. I did get Gaslight. Gaslight. I think they only did a first edition, boxed. I got that, but I felt a little bit like I had to, really, considering the map that I did for them.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and then I got a few books. Now there was one I really wanted to get, and that was Masks of Nyarlathotep Sandbat Edition Companion, and it is a book this thick,
Holy
no
cow!
kidding, and it looked beautiful. And I'm like, I want that. I want that. But there were two guys in front of us that were out trying to outbid us on a few things, and one of them went in heavy on that. Like it was like 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700. And about this point, I was like, do I really want to spend this 800? I was like, no, I don't. So
Oh
we
my
got it for like
gosh!
850 and
Ooh,
$900. It was a good chunk of change. And I wish I'd got that one, but I wasn't going to pay $850 for it,
that's a
you
lot.
know?
That's a lot. Is that one that's like super hard to find or something? It's just they didn't make very
It's,
many.
it's
What's the
going to
deal
be
with it?
fairly hard to find. The thing is, with everything that they pulled out, nearly everything was mint or still in shrink, you know? Um,
But then if you had
this
bought that, would you want to open it up or would you be like, okay, that's the one that's mint. Now
Well,
I
and
gotta
that's the
find another
thing.
one that I can
At eight hundred
use.
dollars, you don't anymore, right? Because I would
Yeah.
want to flick through it. I would want to read it,
I
you
know, and I
know.
would just feel like I'm gonna hit that spine, and I'll have that one where it'll crack open, and like I'd just be like, I just want to keep it shut. Leave the other one now.
Right, right. But no, there was some nice little items that I got and other people got from there.
Well, that sounds awesome. I've gotten a bunch of stuff that I wanted over time, not in any kind of auctions like that, but I've been able to slip into eBay and things and find fairly good deals. But one time I'm gonna one day I'll be able to go on one of those conventions when I've got some money in my pocket and I can try to go after something I really want. But I mean, that's another lucky thing about going to a con when it's in an early life cycle like that, right? Because there's aren't that many people there. And I mean, maybe the people that were there were going to be ones that were going to be high, but you probably have better odds if you're in some percentage of 300 people that are there as opposed to some percentage of 2,000 people that are there or
You're only
whatever.
going to get more and more people at the auction as their convention grows and grows and grows. They're going to keep pulling out of their vault. And so, yeah, it's going to get a little harder, I'm sure, to get some of these items. That first edition, by the way, boxed set in shrink. Um, I forget if it was a particular edition number, but it went for $2,000. It went
Yoinks.
high.
Yeah. Well, so and hopefully someone keeps. That's the one thing I lament is I hope a lot of folks are or at least if they're gonna keep it, keeping it. I think like that guy's house you went to in before you went to GaryCon, right? Where they're like kind of keeping it as opposed to just kind of eBay farming. I find that frustrating, but that's another
What, eBay
discussion.
farming?
Yeah, just like snagging up something just to turn around and try to get more for it on eBay. I mean,
Mm.
I get it, we're capitalism, all that blah blah blah, but it can kind of hurt. The Dave says, "Ouch, too much for my taste." Yeah, I think it's too much
Or
for a
the
lot of people's taste.
collectors, or the collectors that just get like 12 plus copies of something, and it goes into a warehouse somewhere and it's never seen again and it's gone. It's just gone
Right.
from distribution, right? That's one thing I will say about Bill Meinhardt. He has no duplicates. It may look like it, but they're personalized copies of, let's say, people at TSR, that type of thing. So there's no duplicates, and his house is open. He invites people to come by and look at it and even pull some out, and he tells stories about some of them. It's like he wants people to be able to see the collection,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I like that.
It's good to preserve stuff, but it's also not in the sense like at the end of Raiders where it's just you know we're gonna go into some warehouse where theoretically top men
Yeah.
will get to look at it and nobody else will. But you know what? Guess what? We are at we've gone through an hour. Unbelievable as
It always
usual.
goes quick, my friend. It always goes quick.
Anything you wanna promote? Anything you want to talk about? Mention before we
I think we've probably spoken
sign
about
off?
it all. Hopefully, in the next show or two, I'll be able to show you a little bit of rivers. Hopefully, the NDA will get
Yeah,
lifted on that.
I'm gonna have to look that up a little bit more. If you missed that, if at the beginning that there's Chaosium announced that they are doing a game based on Rivers of London series of books, Rivers of London. First book also called Midnight Riot in the U.S. for reasons that nobody knows. All right, Alyssa. Um, I will hit you up on Discord because when I end the stream, it's going to play a video and we'll be muted again. Either you can hang out through that and then we can chat to set our next dates. Otherwise, or I can just hit you up on Discord, whichever's
Yeah,
easier. But
let's standard chat.
all right,
Okay.
everyone else, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. Game on, and we'll talk to you later. Ciao.